This tutorial is going to put pen to paper and show you some practical application of what you've been learning so far. And when you complete it, you will have the proper context to truly understand the power of the wealth maximization account and to use it in conjunction with the principles of the Perpetual Wealth Strategy. And the wealth maximization account tutorial is going to be the final video of this section, which is coming up next. Over the last several years, I've taught what you are about to learn to literally thousands of people. And I've done it in dozens of different ways. Now, I've thought for this tutorial long and hard about the best way to teach a seemingly foreign subject in a way that even my 11-year-old could understand. And I know you're going to get it. The first thing that I'm going to cover is this. For the majority of Americans, 100%, so 100% of the money that they make after taxes goes to and is controlled by a bank. I'm going to draw out my little bank right here. Now, it's either going to be a depository bank, so depository, which is savings and loan, or it's going to be an investment bank. And an investment bank is Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Goldman Sachs, etc. Think about this. The second statement I'm going to make, so we'll put here 1, this will be 2, is that you finance everything that you buy. So let me write it out. You finance everything you buy. And these are going to be the two topics of this tutorial. And these are going to be the two focuses of this tutorial. So as a reference point, what I'm going to do is just write out the two primary functions of banking. So the first is capitalization, okay, which is getting your money and housing it for you. And the second is loans. And I'm going to use here leverage, because essentially the loans that they issue are because you've given them money. Now, understanding these two things, again, I can't stress enough how vital and paramount they are to your personal financial situation when you incorporate the Perpetual Wealth Strategy. I love the saying, you finance everything that you buy. And I think this is the perfect time to really go through it because of what you've learned thus far. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in and draw just another line. I'm only going to use one side of the graph this time. So this is time, okay, and then going up is going to be money. But I'm going to start with $0 here, okay, right at the beginning. So you look at whether it's an investment bank or whether it's a depository bank. Okay, this is what I mean by you finance everything you buy. First, you capitalize. Everything goes to the bank. Okay, you get a paycheck, it gets deposited into the bank. You have your 401k, your mutual funds, your qualified plan, that goes into an investment bank. Okay, so that's represented here. And then over time, you get more money, and you essentially house it with either a depository bank or an investment bank. Okay, and you keep doing the exact same thing. Now, here is kind of that inflection point that I talked about, and that's where you either withdraw or have a market loss. So for this example, we're just going to say it's a depository bank. So this is your after-tax money that gets put into the bank. It goes there, banks can use it. Okay, they have millions of people that are depositing money with them, and they're able to use all of it, up to 90%, I guess technically. Okay, but they use the lion's share of that money. Now, when it comes to you, what we're taught as a society is that you save up, and the responsible thing to do is to pay cash. Okay, but when you pay cash, what happens is your dollar amount goes down. Now, again, you look at the options that you have, which is going to be financing or paying cash. you can argue both ways. You can argue that it might be responsible to pay cash, but there's another way in which you can state that it may be responsible and smart to use credit. But nonetheless, in this example, when you build up your savings, build up your capital, and you pay cash, okay, what is the cost? How are you financing? Well, go back a few videos and we talked about opportunity cost. So opportunity cost is when you do make this withdrawal, this is money now that could have continued to compound. And where would have that compounding created your hockey stick? It's probably down the road a little bit, but nonetheless, you have an opportunity cost. And that opportunity cost is the interest that you could have earned. Okay, the interest that you could have earned. There are measurements. This is an economic principle. You can actually measure what type of interest you could have earned over the long run had you kept the money in that account as opposed to spending it. So this goes on and on. So looking at the idea of paying cash, okay, it starts with this first transaction, but then let's go to a second transaction. So the second transaction is you save up again and save up again and save up again. You continue to make your after-tax deposits in this account, and then you withdraw. Same thing applies. This money also could have earned interest, and that is where the opportunity cost comes in, because down the road is when essentially there would have been this inflection point of getting into the compound curve or the hockey stick. So all of these transactions, and this goes on and on, all of these transactions that you save up for and pay cash, there is a measurable expense. And looking at it as interest basically shows you that you are financing this transaction. Now let's talk about the second way. So again, just to recap, the first primary function of a bank is capitalization, is where you house your money, and banks take advantage of that, right? This is all going on right here. Okay, this entire process, saving up, spending, saving up, spending, saving up, spending. Okay, you finance those transactions because of the interest that you could have earned, but from a bank standpoint, it is huge for them because this allows them, while you're saving up, they are able to use the majority of that money to make loans. All right, so let's flip it around and now talk about the other side of banking, which is loans and leverage. So you obviously, if you're the transaction of saving up and spending, okay, it takes a bit of time, and that's illustrated right here. Okay, it could be, depending on what you're buying, could take months, could take years. But looking at the other side of things, as far as why loans exist, is because sometimes people do not want to wait. So instead of paying cash or saving up and spending, they will use bank loans and they will go into debt. And that debt could be through a credit card, could be through an auto loan, could be through a mortgage, student loans, whatever type of loan. But that debt is now going to be paid back over a period of time. Okay, most all loans have some sort of payment schedule. Now you have student loans that have a deferment, but eventually there are going to be payments required to pay that back. And guess what? On top of those payments is going to be an interest charge. Okay, and we'll just represent it with that line. And that interest charge, again, that's financing. Okay, so again, there's two functions of banking, both include financing on your part. They earn whether you save up and spend or you go into debt. Banks are earning money and it's costing you interest, either interest that you could have earned or interest that you're making payments on to the bank. And this goes on. Okay, you look at this first transaction. Okay, if you pay back that loan, you use the payments not to build savings. You use those payments to essentially pay back the bank. And so if you want to buy something in the future, guess what? You're going to have to go back into debt and then make payments over time. And there's always going to be those interest rates applied to whatever type of loan you take out, and also applies to your credit worthiness. So looking at both sides, again, loans and leverage, capitalization, this shows you how banks take advantage of your cash flow. And this also shows you that there is financing on both sides of those transactions, opportunity cost and interest that you pay to them. One other thing that I want you to notice before we move on to the wealth maximization account is that there are payments on both of these transactions. We'll use that as like a third thing. Cash flow. Okay, banks love cash flow. Investment banks and depository banks. So looking at payments and cash flow, you're making payments here because you're making payments into a bank by saving. Then you're also making payments on loans, as I just mentioned, because you're making payments back to them according to the terms of your loan. So these are powerful concepts. These are powerful principles when it comes to incorporating them into the Perpetual Wealth Strategy. So what we're going to do now is transition over to the Wealth Maximization account. And this account is powerful because it includes what you're looking at right here, but it allows you to have your money continuing to compound and not necessarily have to go into debt with banks. Okay, so stick with me to the Wealth Maximization account tutorial.